She told her doctor she was exhausted, not tired, not sleepy. Exhausted in a way she could not explain. She was sleeping 7 hours a night. She was eating well. She had stopped drinking coffee after noon, and still, by 2 in the afternoon, it felt like someone had pulled the plug on her brain. Her doctor ran the usual tests: thyroid, iron, blood pressure. Everything came back normal. What no one thought to ask about was her hearing. Most people think of hearing loss as an inconvenience, a social problem, something you manage with subtitles or by asking people to speak up. What most people don't realize is that struggling to hear doesn't just affect your ears. It affects your brain every single day. And if you've ever found yourself drained by the end of a conversation, even a simple one, there's a very real scientific explanation for what's happening inside your head. By the way, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever known someone who seemed mentally exhausted but couldn't explain why, I'd love to hear your story. Here's where it gets interesting. The human brain is remarkably efficient, but only when it receives clear, complete signals. When those signals are distorted, when the ears are sending the brain incomplete or degraded information, the brain doesn't give up. It does something far more costly. It works harder. Neuroscientists call this cognitive load. And for people with even mild hearing difficulty, this cognitive effort happens constantly. On every phone call, in every crowded restaurant, during every conversation that takes place in a room with any background noise at all. The brain is essentially running a reconstruction algorithm in the background, filling in words it didn't quite catch, predicting syllables, cross-referencing context. This is not a conscious process. You don't feel yourself doing it, but your brain feels the cost, and the cost is real. Research from Johns Hopkins and other institutions has explored the connection between auditory processing difficulty and cognitive fatigue. The pattern they identified was consistent. The harder the auditory system works to process unclear sound, the more mental resources get consumed, resources that were supposed to be available for focus, memory, emotional regulation, and clarity. This is why someone with hearing strain can feel mentally exhausted after a meeting that seemed simple, why a phone call can leave them needing to sit down, why the end of a social evening feels like they ran a race, even if they barely moved. But there's another layer to this that most people never hear about. The auditory nerve, the pathway that carries sound information from your ear to your brain, does not work in isolation. It is deeply connected to the nervous system, to stress pathways, to areas of the brain that regulate focus, mood, and mental energy. When the auditory system is under chronic strain, it can place the nervous system in a state of low-grade alertness. The body interprets unclear or distorted sound as a signal to stay vigilant, to pay closer attention, to prepare for something that might be important. This is an ancient survival mechanism. But in the modern world, surrounded by noise, meetings, conversations, and digital sounds, that mechanism can stay switched on for hours at a time. The result is a body and mind that never fully recovers, a nervous system that cannot quite settle, and a level of mental fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix, because the issue isn't how much you're sleeping. It's what your brain and nervous system are doing all day long, even when you think you're resting. So what can you do? The first step is simply recognizing that your mental exhaustion might not be about stress, sleep, or aging in the general sense. It might be closely tied to auditory effort, and once you understand that connection, you can start to support it more intentionally. Some strategies are behavioral, creating quieter listening environments, reducing unnecessary audio input during the day, allowing your brain to rest from heavy processing tasks, but increasingly, people are also exploring natural support options. Formulas designed specifically to support hearing clarity, auditory nerve health, cognitive focus, and the nervous system that underpins all of it. Near the end of this video, I mentioned a natural support option that may be worth exploring if this topic resonates with you. You'll find the details in the pinned first comment below, along with a link to learn more. It's not a cure. It's not a treatment. But for those looking for a thoughtful, natural way to support ear wellness and mental energy together, It may be worth a look. Here's what I want you to take from this. The connection between hearing and mental fatigue is real. It is documented, and it is still largely overlooked by patients, by general practitioners, and by the wellness industry as a whole. If you or someone you love has been feeling that unexplainable drain, that foggy, worn out, don't know why kind of exhaustion, consider the possibility that the ears are involved, not as a diagnosis, but as a direction worth exploring, because sometimes the clearest path to mental clarity starts not in the mind. It starts in what the mind is listening to.